You sit down to start the thing that actually matters. The report, the application, the project you've been avoiding for weeks. Your laptop is open, the cursor is blinking, and somehow, within 90 seconds, you're on your knees wiping down a baseboard you haven't thought about since the day you moved in. Suddenly, the kitchen sponge feels urgent. The junk drawer has to be organized right now. The dishes can't possibly wait another hour. You don't even enjoy cleaning. You certainly don't have time for it. And yet the pull feels almost righteous, like the most reasonable decision in the world. Here's what's strange. You're not being lazy. Laziness would mean doing nothing at all. You're working hard just on the wrong thing, and with a calm, focused energy, the real task never seems to get. So, why does your brain wait until the worst possible moment to make you clean? The answer isn't really about discipline. It's about a much older machine running quietly underneath your intentions. Biologists noticed this behavior long before anyone thought to apply it to your kitchen. In the middle of the last century, the Dutch scientist Niko Tinbergen spent years watching seabirds fight over territory. When two herring gulls squared off at a border, tense and ready to attack, they would sometimes stop in the middle of the standoff and do something bizarre. One bird would suddenly begin yanking at the grass. The other might tuck its head down and start carefully preening its feathers, as if grooming had just become the most important task on Earth. Tinbergen called these moments displacement activities. A displacement activity is an ordinary, unrelated behavior that erupts when an animal is caught between two powerful competing urges, the drive to attack and the drive to flee, colliding with nowhere left to go. The nervous energy has to escape somehow, so it spills sideways into whatever simple, familiar action happens to be available. Preening, pecking, grooming, tidying. Once you know the pattern, you start noticing it everywhere. A cat that misjudges a leap lands clumsily and immediately begins washing itself as though nothing happened. A nervous person clicks a pen or straightens a stack of papers. And a human being facing a task that feels too big, too uncertain, or too important abruptly discovers an overwhelming need to alphabetize the spice rack. Your primitive brain treats a high-stakes task much the same way that gull treats a rival. Part of you wants to charge forward and get it done. Another part wants to escape the discomfort, the risk of failing, the quiet fear of being judged. Two drives push in opposite directions, and for a moment you freeze in place. In the ancient world, a frozen animal was a vulnerable one. So the old system does something clever. Instead of letting you stall completely, it hands the tension a job. It reaches for the nearest action that is small, controllable, and almost guaranteed to succeed. And few things feel more controllable than putting a messy space back in order. Cleaning has a beginning, a middle, and an unmistakable end. The counter was dirty. Now it shines. In a moment when the important task offers no such certainty, you can't know if the report is good enough, if the interview will go well, if any of it will be enough. A clean surface hands you instant visible proof that your effort changed something. Your brain gets the reward of completion without the risk of the thing that actually scares it. And in the world your ancestors lived in, this was never a flaw. It was maintenance, a well-ordered camp, a tended fire, a dry and clean place to sleep. These things carried real survival value. Imagine an ancestor sitting through a long, tense night, sensing danger somewhere in the dark but with no enemy to fight and nowhere to run. Turning that restless energy into tidying the shelter kept both the camp and the nervous system in working order until morning. The neuroscientist Robert Sapolsky has spent decades studying what stress does to the body, and he has shown how animals under pressure use these displacement behaviors to bleed off tension, and that doing so genuinely lowers their stress. The relief you feel scrubbing that pan isn't imaginary. Your body really does begin to calm down. The only problem is which threat it thinks it's saving you from. If you find it strangely comforting to understand the hidden logic behind your own behavior, subscribe to Primitive Brain. Because here's the twist. The very thing that makes the important task so hard is exactly what makes cleaning feel so good. When you face something uncertain and high stakes, the stress response quietly turns down the part of your brain you need the most. The prefrontal cortex, the slow, thoughtful region behind your forehead that handles planning, focus, and long-term thinking, begins to lose its grip. The neuroscientist Amy Arnsten has shown that under real pressure, this region essentially steps back, handing control to faster, more automatic circuits. So at the precise moment you need deep focus, your brain is least able to provide it, and most drawn toward a simple, physical, familiar action instead. Wiping a table asks nothing of the exhausted thinking brain. It just feels like progress. But that ancient valve was built for a world of concrete threats and concrete chores. Your deadlines are neither. The report has no edges you can wipe clean. The project won't gleam when you're finished with it. And every minute the old system spends discharging your anxiety into the floorboards is a minute quietly stolen from the one task that actually needed you. This is the hidden cost of a survival system running in the wrong century. It isn't sabotaging you out of weakness. It's trying to protect you from a threat it can't correctly name, using the only tool it trusts. But knowing this changes what the urge means. The next time you feel that sudden, almost desperate need to clean right before something that matters, you can recognize it for what it really is. Not a collapse of willpower, but a signal. It's your brain telling you that this task feels big enough, uncertain enough, or frightening enough to trip an ancient escape valve. The mess was never the real problem. The mess was simply the exit your primitive brain could find. So the sponge in your hand isn't proof that you're lazy. It's proof that some part of you cares about the harder thing enough to be afraid of it. And that fear, once you can finally see it clearly, is far easier to set down than a dirty counter ever was.